Alright, let's talk about something most people don't know. The Sunset Strip in the 1940s. It wasn't all cocktails and crooners. Nope, it was wild. Like, war zone wild. Picture neon lights flickering against polished chrome bumpers, swing music blasting from open club doors, and the smell of whiskey and cigarette smoke thick in the air. Mobsters in tailored suits brush shoulders with movie stars in mink, all under the watchful eyes of crooked cops. It was a powder keg of vice and glamour. The Sunset Strip back then wasn't just a place to party. It was a battleground of influence, corruption, and survival. What happened on those few blocks of road shaped the mythology of Los Angeles, transforming it from just another American city into a symbol of danger, decadence, and dreams. Back in the day, the Strip wasn't even officially part of Los Angeles. It was this weird no-man's land between Beverly Hills and Hollywood, under county jurisdiction. That technicality made it a perfect breeding ground for corruption. LAPD didn't have full control over it, which meant there were fewer rules and way more room for chaos. That loophole was basically an open invitation to every hustler, gangster, and greedy developer in the city. Mobsters saw it as the ideal place to plant their operations, outside the reach of city police, but still in the heart of the action. It was the perfect storm. The county sheriffs were easily bought, laws were loosely enforced, and for the right price, anyone could get a liquor license or open a club. The Strip turned into an outlaw's paradise almost overnight. Enter the heavyweights, Bugsy Siegel, Mickey Cohen, Jack Dragna, men who didn't just play the game, they owned the board. They invested in clubs, casinos, and protection rackets. They weren't just shaking people down, they were shaping the Strip's entire economy. And they didn't work in the shadows. They wanted to be seen. Mickey Cohen would strut around the Strip like he owned it, surrounded by bodyguards and movie starlets. He'd walk into a restaurant, slap a wad of cash on the table and say, "This'll cover everyone's dinner tonight." To the public, he was this larger-than-life character, but behind closed doors, he was running gambling dens, smuggling operations, and laundering drug money through nightclubs and restaurants. And anyone who got in his way, politicians, rivals, even friends, ended up in a ditch. At night, it was electric. The clubs were legendary. Ciro's, Mocambo, the Trocadero, these weren't just entertainment venues. They were cultural epicenters. They were where deals got made, stars were discovered, and secrets got buried. Imagine Humphrey Bogart lighting a cigarette in the corner while Marilyn Monroe dances under the spotlight, and in the next booth over, a hit is being ordered. These places were dripping in glamour and danger. Every velvet rope had a story. Every cocktail glass was touched by someone famous or infamous. The mob didn't just run the books, they ran the social scene. If you wanted to matter in LA, you had to matter there. But that came at a price. Say the wrong thing, hit on the wrong girl, or skip out on a debt, and you were either thrown out back for a beating or found floating in the LA River the next day. But this wasn't just about crime. This was about control. The Strip was the battleground where Hollywood's polished illusion clashed with the dirty truth. Movie studios had a tight grip on their stars. Every scandal was a threat to profits, so they sent fixers, guys who could clean up any mess, bribe any cop, and make any witness disappear. It was all about maintaining the myth of perfection. If a star got too drunk and punched someone, quiet settlement. If a rising actress was caught in a compromising position with a mobster, a studio exec would step in, spin the story, and pay off the press. The whole system was propped up by lies, blackmail, and backroom deals. The Sunset Strip was where dreams were sold, and often destroyed. The soldiers returning from war didn't help calm things down either. These were young men who had just spent years in trenches and battlefields. They'd seen horrors most civilians couldn't imagine. They came back to a city that promised fame, fortune, and women, and instead found crowded tenements, dead-end jobs, and an underworld that welcomed them with open arms. The Strip became their release valve. Fistfights were common, drunken brawls spilled into the streets, and when someone pulled a knife or a gun, nobody was surprised. The veterans weren't afraid of violence, they were used to it, and the Strip fed off that energy. It became a pressure cooker of testosterone, trauma, and temptation. One spark and the whole street could go up in flames. Then there was the music. Man, the music was the soul of the Strip. Jazz clubs thumped with double basses and saxophones. Crooners serenaded crowds until 4 a.m. Eventually, that evolved into early rock and roll, the kind of raw, rebellious sound that scared the hell out of parents. These clubs weren't just about nightlife. They were launching pads for culture. They shaped what people wore, how they danced, what they felt. And for the establishment, that was terrifying. Conservative groups started organizing, morality laws were enforced, but nothing could stop the Strip's momentum. The more they cracked down, the more the place pulsed with that irresistible mix of danger and possibility. It was freedom, messy, chaotic, seductive freedom, and people couldn't get enough. By the end of the 1940s, things started to shift. Public pressure mounted, newspaper exposés revealed just how deep the corruption went. Political rivals began using the Strip as a talking point. Police raids became more frequent. Some clubs shut down. The mob started retreating, not because they lost interest, but because they were getting smarter, moving operations further underground or out of town. But the Sunset Strip's golden age, that explosive mix of glitz and grit, had already left a permanent mark. It inspired novels, noir films, and decades of rebellious culture. It wasn't just a phase in the city's history, it was a defining era. So next time you're cruising down Sunset, past the billboards and boutiques, just know, under that polished surface lies a past soaked in blood, bourbon, and betrayal. Because in the 1940s, the Sunset Strip wasn't just where the stars came to shine, it's where some of them came to burn. It was a place where legends were born, and sometimes buried.